Hey everyone, my name is Robin and I'm an idiot because I messed up the recording and you won't be able to hear my sound, but Maarten's sound is working. So, yeah, Maarten, can you shortly introduce yourself, talk about what you do, etc.? Let's do it.
Okay, so I'm Maarten. I'm a teacher at the Department of Media Studies, and I'm in the television team of teachers, which means that my specialization is in the context of television and cross-media culture. So that's also the area on which I supervise thesis.
Cool. Well, I'm looking really tired. Probably the reason why I messed it up. Well, let's start with the interview. All right, so the first question is, what do you do in order to guide the students who are writing their thesis?
You mean before? Let's say before the start, or in the beginning period?
Yeah, in the beginning period.
Well, the most important thing, which might surprise you, is that what I want to do is to give my students self-confidence and give them the idea that it's fun to write a thesis, because I think the most important thing for writing a thesis is that actually it should be fun. That is, it is the only part of the curriculum in which the student, him or herself, can is fully free to choose a subject. So you don't have to think about articles that you should read in advance or that you should incorporate in your thesis. You can come up with whatever topic, which doesn't mean that every topic is ideal for a thesis, but that's the next phase of the process. But first of all, you have to have a bit of confidence, and you have to feel a bit of joy in. You have to start with a feeling of joy, because if and the fun of the fun thing, the disadvantage is that I think half of the people really see this as as a highlight of their studies, and the other half sees it as something that has to be done, but it is a terrible thing at the end of the thesis. And I hope that for the second half of the students, I can change the attitude from the very beginning and try and see make them see it as really what it is, which is a joy to do.
All right, so in that case, you would even say start writing during the Christmas break, or
Yeah.
no, I don't think I said that there, but you get the point. If you want to start writing on your thesis really early, is that possible? I mean, when are you allowed to start writing?
Well, you are allowed to start writing from the very beginning, but that's not what I would advise you. What? Well, to give you some advice for the very beginning of the process is actually there are two main reasons why things can go wrong in the process. Now, that doesn't mean that, because this is one of the things people really fear, is that they're doing a lot of work, and in the end, a teacher says, "Well, it's an insufficient, so you have to do it all over again." That's not what's going to happen, because a supervisor is there to supervise the process as well, not just to assess the final result. So if things go wrong, there's a supervisor to guide you through the process. Then again, there are some things that you have to keep in mind from the very beginning, actually at the very beginning. And the first thing is, don't make your topic too large. That is really one of the things people may do wrong in the very beginning. They choose a topic which is way too large. Actually, they want to explain the whole world. So sort of the world according to fill in your name. and that's not what a thesis is about. That's actually not what research is about. So what you have to do, and this applies to a BA thesis, but it also applies to a PhD project. Research projects are in almost all cases very specific. So choose a very specific topic. So a question like, what is the impact of soap operas on society, is way too large. How in the world could you ever begin to do research on such a question? So don't make your subject too large. This is the first a point where things go wrong. And the second point is, and that applies to the question that you started with, don't start writing, start reading. And actually my advice would be, because this is the second point that often goes wrong, that people start to write too early in the process. And the danger is, of course, that either you come up with a research question that has already been done, and you find out during the process while you are in the library. And the other thing is that you cannot use the things you should have read in advance to come to your conclusions. So in any way, you should start reading extensively before you even think about writing. So in summary, first, choose a very specific subject, and two, first start reading before even thinking about writing about the subject. And then maybe an additional point, choose a subject you really enjoy. And that in fact is, of course, related to the other points, because you have to read a lot about the subject, and then do research, and then write your thesis. So you really have to enjoy it. It has a reason why you have a whole semester for a BA thesis as well as an MA thesis to write it. There's a reason for that, because it takes a lot of time. First to read, then do your research, and then start to write and make a brilliant final report about your research.
Wow, thank you. Yeah, that's a great answer. I think you just answered 5 of my questions in one go. So that's great. Thank you. But yeah, it's all about reading, and then you start writing. Otherwise,
yeah. So actually, this is probably the most difficult part. I also found this the most difficult element when I had to write my MA thesis a long time ago. That you really, for me, almost half of the time was just to read, just to familiarize myself with the topic. And I was really eager to start writing, because I thought, well, I'm too late. But my supervisor, which was a very good supervisor, she said, no, you really have to read in advance, and then the writing goes much faster than you might think. And actually, it exactly happened as she had predicted. So you have to read well in advance and then start to write.
Right. So would you say that this is the most common problem students face when they are writing their thesis?
Yeah, this is the most common problem, together with choosing much too large a topic. And of course you can. So there's a connection between those elements, because while you familiarize yourself with the topic, you can think of what hasn't been done before, and what might be a really nice, for example, television show, or a new television show to which you can apply older or already existing theories. So while reading, while familiarizing yourself with the topic, that gives you a basis to come up with a good research question, and to come up with a specific research question that hasn't been researched before.
Right. And since you are a thesis supervisor, is this something your classes are dedicated to?
Yes, in most cases you do that during the classes. Certainly in the case of a BA thesis, in which the first part is actually a part you do in work groups. So together with other students who probably have a comparable or a related topic, because most of the at the Department of Media Studies, most of the BA work groups have a specific general topic. So, for example, reality TV or another genre. So you are in classes in which other students have related topics, and can also give good feedback. But of course, the first one to give you feedback is your supervisor. Also, when it comes to a good research question, because a topic is one thing, but to go from a topic to a good research question, of which the specificity is only one aspect, is another thing. A good research question, and a good research question is not that easy, although probably most of the students have done media research in their first year, and that gives you also already a good idea how difficult that is, a good research question. But it also has to be a good academic research question, which is an additional point.
Wait, now I'm a bit lost too. So you've got those two kind of questions, but how do you combine them to one in the best way? Good question, right?
Well, combined, a good research question is a question that for which you first have to familiarize yourself with the topic before you can begin. That is, you work within a context of what has already been done. So it is a kind of question with an amount of sophistication that needs familiarizing with it in advance. So that gives you an idea of how sophisticated the question should be. You have to familiarize yourself with the topic in advance. And the second point is that you have to have of course you don't know you don't already know the exact answer to your question, but you have to have an idea of the kind of answer to the question, and there's a difference between the two. So you have to have an understanding of well, for example, if I want to understand the popularity or of a television show, that might have something to do with, for example, gender, or the genderedness of the audience, or the but you don't know in exact in what way, because that's what you're going to research, what you're going to do the research on, either by way of content analysis, or by audience research, or by historical archive research. Any way, any method you might use to do your research, but you have to have an idea of what kind of answer your question requires. Not the exact answer, but the kind of answer, because that influences the articles and book you're going to use, and that influences the method you're going to use for your own analysis.
Yeah, interesting. All right, let's move on to the next question then. Maybe the most important question. Why did you grade me a 6.5 for my thesis last year? Just kidding. The question I asked here was, what makes a thesis worth a good grade?
Well, I think in the BA syllabus as well as in the MA syllabus, there are some general rules for how to assess thesis, and the funny thing is, they're always put in quite general terms. So it might seem to be quite subjective to assess a final thesis, because what is a good understanding of the material, and what is a sophisticated way of doing an interview or a survey research. Sophisticated. What is sophisticated? That seems to be quite subjective. On the other hand, the funny thing is that when they were developed, that is these general criteria, and we try to apply them. That is that a group of teachers came together and took some examples, some really existing examples of thesis on a BA level as well as on an MA level. Then it turned out that the grades that they give were extremely familiar. I hadn't even expected that myself. So it seems that there is some general agreement, although you can't put your finger precisely on what a sophisticated question or a sophisticated elaboration or a deep level elaboration is. There is quite a good agreement amongst teachers, amongst supervisors, on what a good thesis is. So and to give you an idea about that, what helped me while I was writing a thesis, or before I started writing a thesis, is to read some previous theses by other students in advance. And I think most of the teachers also, during the process of, for example, a BA work group, most of the teachers will give you some example theses by previous students on this specific general topic that the work group is about. That gives you some idea about what you can expect, or what is expected from you as a final product. So I cannot give you a very specific answer to what it needs to get a 6 or a 7 as a final grade.
Mm-hmm.
But it is not as subjective as some students sometimes fear.
Yeah, okay, Maarten. Yeah, that's true. But let's get real here. Some people get an insufficient grade.
Yes.
So what happens then? Do they have to do it again next year?
Well, there's always one chance to have a resit. And sometimes it isn't called a reset that has to do with official rules. I'm not going to bother you with that because it's not that interesting. But the point is, you always have a second chance after a first assessment, either within the block in the seminar or at the end of the seminar. But the point here is, and I already made that earlier, that a good supervisor tells you during every stage of the writing process, actually of the whole research process, which starts much earlier than writing, if things are okay, if you have a good supervisor, he tells you along the way if things go better or worse, in what phase of the process you are, and if things go quite well. So as I told you before, there is some fear that and I also hear that in your question. There is some fear that at the end you suddenly get an insufficient, and you have to go through the whole process once again. Well, you only have to do that if at the end, after your supervisor have told you once and again that this might become an insufficient, and you have got an insufficient, and also the retake or whatever it is called, the second chance or the resit is an insufficient again, then you have to do it all over again.
And when you have to do it all over again, can you still use the same topic you used for the first one?
Well, in most, well, that depends, because in most cases you will get a different teacher. Certainly for a BA, of course, because you are in specific groups, and then, well, it depends on whether you are placed again in with the same teacher, and if the teacher is doing the same group again. So that's not possible in all cases. So that means there's also that's also an extra reason to really try to. Well, of course, you all want to do that in the amount of time that is within the semester that you started to write it, applying to MA thesis as well as BA thesis. But there's an extra reason for that, and that is that you cannot be certain that you can do the same topic in a new semester.
Right. And what if, this is another scenario, you get paired with a teacher, even if it's the first time you're writing your thesis, and you don't have the click, or you know what I mean, right? Like Tinder match. No, you're just not feeling each other. What do you do then? Is there something you can do about this?
Well, in BA classes, that isn't, well, as far as I know, that isn't possible, because you're placed in a group, which is the same as for any other course in which you work in work groups, in seminars. So you are placed in a specific seminar, and in some cases you like the topic, and in some cases you like the teacher more than in other cases. But that's, well, you have to, sometimes you're lucky and sometimes you don't feel that lucky. Although in general, my experience is that sometimes the groups that are not that attractive at first sight, in the end turn to be the most interesting ones, and it also applies to teachers. So you never know in advance. When it comes to MA thesis, there is a bit more flexibility, because that's something you really have to work on an individual basis. So, for example, if a teacher, which happens very rarely, but then again, it does happen. If a teacher doesn't understand anything of the kind of question you really want to write your thesis on, or if there's no click with your teacher at all, you might think about asking your thesis coordinator, and every strand has a thesis coordinator, if you can switch a teacher.
Right. Good to know. Yeah.
But that is only for MAs, and in the case of an MA, there's all you have to come up with a thesis proposal in advance. And what we do is that we try to find the most the teacher, the supervisor, that is most familiar with your topic, has already been chosen for you in general. So we try to find the best supervisor you can get on an individual basis, well in advance, actually at the beginning of the semester, because as I said, for an MA thesis you have to submit a proposal before you get a supervisor.
Yeah, right. Okay, that's nice information to know. So let's move on with the next question. Well, actually, you've answered a lot of questions already. and I didn't even ask the questions yet, but you answered them, so that was nice. Well, okay, I've got one left, which I think is also very important. Would you rather suggest doing an internship during your thesis or doing the internship at another time? Like,
Yes, the last option. I would be very in favor of not combining an internship with a BA thesis. And well, it's a very good question. So I'm glad you pose it, because I have very specific ideas about it. This is from a point, from a combined point as a supervisor of BA as well as MA thesis, but this mostly apply to the BA, of course. But also from the point of view of a supervisor of internships, which I also do as the supervisor from the university. So for an internship, you always have two supervisors, one from the place where you do the internship, and one from the UvA, in this case. So from both points of view, I would very much recommend not to combine them in one semester. And the reason for that is that you want to do them both as well as possible. So it's not that, because officially, well, certainly in the television world, it's quite difficult to find an internship for less than 40 hours a week, not full time, which would be ideal from a time perspective. But in the television world, that's not very common. An internship of, let's say, 20 hours a week. So there's a practical problem there. But even if you would have an internship of 20 hours a week, or even if you say, well, in this period I work full time on my internship, and only in weekends or in late hours I do my thesis, and in another phase, because that's what implies then, because your internship doesn't last for, in most cases, doesn't last for a whole semester. So during the other time, I can work full time on my thesis. Even if you work that out in terms of time schedules, even then I wouldn't be in favor of it. And the reason is that I think in general, it works quite well to work as much as possible on your thesis. So not to be hindered by any other things on your mind while writing on your thesis. But that applies even more to an internship. And an internship for most students is, certainly for Dutch students working, having an internship in the Dutch television world, you want to do it as good as possible, because that's sort of your entrance in the television world in the Netherlands. Which means that even if you have an internship of officially 40 hours a week, the television world is a world, and that doesn't only apply to internships but also to your work as well. That it takes more than 40 hours a week, certainly in specific periods. For example, if the final episode of a reality series, let's say The Voice, comes along. So and this is what you want to do really well, because in the end, if they want to offer a job to either to one of two people who did an internship, and one said, well, okay, my 40 hours these weeks are my 40 hours this weeks are over, so I'm going home. And the other one says, 40 hours done, but I really enjoy this job and I do 20 hours extra and I really want to be with the final episode. I really want to be there and do some extra work. Then, of course, they take the last one. So I hope you see the point. For your internship, you want to show really your best side, and you want to do all you can to really apply for the job that they might offer, or that might come up in the month or in the period just after your internship, so that you can hang on there. So that's the reason why, even though officially it might be possible, although in general it will be difficult to arrange it to start with. Even if you have arranged it in a way that seems okay theoretically, even in that case, I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, so the idea is then to focus on just one thing,
Yes.
because otherwise it could be too much.
Well, it is a thesis is something you really want to focus on to begin with. But in internship, most of the students even want to focus on more than a final thesis. The two things are both probably the most important two things during your whole studies. But I would recommend you to focus on them both as well as possible. And you probably won't succeed in that while combining that during the SEM period.
Yeah, right. That's great advice. Thank you. I think this was it for now. I've asked a few questions, but you've given me a lot of answers, so I think we have enough.
Can I add one extra thing?
Sure, of course.
And that is that if you have any additional questions, and that doesn't only apply to the thesis, but maybe also to other aspects, for example, internships. If you have any other questions during your BA, during the BA period of your studies, there's also a study. What is it called? A study. It's not a study advisor, because study advisor is for general questions about, for example, your schedule. But you have also a tutor. Now you know the system of tutors for the propeduise, the first year, but that only applies to the first year. In the second and the third year, or maybe the fourth and fifth year, if you need some extra time for your BA, there's also a tutor system, but the tutor system is related to the strand you do. So there is a BA tutor for film, a BA tutor for television, and a BA tutor for new digital media. And with all general questions, but focused about the contents, not focused about practical issues, but focused about the contents of your study, you can go to this teacher. And for television, I am by incident, I am the BA tutor for television students.
Right. And how can people contact you? Oh, that was too early. How can people contact you?
They can email me and ask for an appointment.
All right. Well,
in face-to-face or now by Zoom.
Yeah, that's how it works right now. Yeah, okay, I get that. Well, anyway, thank you so much for all these amazing answers. Okay. And I hope to see you around soon, and we all hope to see you around soon. So,
okay,
bye-bye.
My pleasure. See you around.
Doei.